Why are you watching me still? You haven't clicked the link yet. Click it. Click it. Click the link right now.
You said your reason for getting into law. When you mentioned your reason for getting into law, but primarily, like, you didn't go to the defense side. Most people, or black people, period, like they're most of the time you see black lawyers, they're
public defenders or they're private defense attorneys.
Right. So what makes you go? All of that is the reason why you said, you know what, I'm gonna go straight prosecutor.
So actually what happened was when I knew that when I was in high school that I had this interest in obviously criminal law. And so then I went through law school. In law school I had the desire to be a prosecutor. But then when I actually sort of during my years in law school, we get a chance to intern. So you get a chance to intern at various offices. I interned at the state attorney's office, at the public defender's office. So I did have a chance to do some work with the defense. But you know what? I didn't like being on the defense. The reason being is because
people are always guilty. I got a lot for you.
Not even that, because it wasn't even that. Because for me, it wasn't so much. As a public, I appreciate the work that public defenders do. The reason is because it's not so much that you're representing whether or not this person is guilty or innocent. Your job is to make sure that you're protecting that person's constitutional rights at all costs. Because as the state, I have the burden to prove, cases beyond a reasonable doubt. I have the burden to, it's my job to pursue justice. As a public defender, it's your job to make sure that I dot all of my I's and cross all of my T's. So every player in the criminal justice system is important. For me, I was more so interested, in prosecution because, like I said, as a prosecutor, it is my job to make charging decisions. If I don't charge a case or if I don't move, they don't move.
Wow.
So it's like I am the initial, I start everything. I start the process. I stop the process. And so for me, it was sort of having that autonomy and that decision-making power is sort of what kind of catapulted me into prosecution. A lot of people think, yeah, but you're putting people in jail. People will say that.
Yeah.
And that's always fun to hear. But it's not so much that. I think what people, it's sort of, and I thought about this the other day because someone told me that, and I was like, when you say that, you really dilute the power of the prosecutor.
Yeah.
Because the reason why I say that is because as a prosecutor, we have so much. There's no limit to what we can do. I think that a prosecutor who only knows jail or prison is a very uninformed and very non-well-rounded prosecutor. They're just, all they see is black and white when there's so much more than just that. There's so many different interesting programs that you can put people in, so many different things that you could do to kind of help people outside of just incarceration. We can be smart on crime. Right. And,
I wouldn't even say that, like, that is a bad thing to say, like, oh, you just put people in jail.
Right.
In my opinion, I think your position is the most powerful position because you can look at a case where someone that wants to be biased toward the defendant, they're going to prosecute for jail.
Exactly.
But you could say, I'm not going to be biased in this position, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to prosecute for jail. Let's push someplace else. Let's go for community service.
Exactly.
Let's like you said, a program. Let's put you on something. There's probably programs out there that defendants can get into or criminals can get into that have nothing to do with jail that we probably never even heard of because the prosecutor didn't make that an option.
Well, exactly. And like I said, it's being a prosecutor, it takes somebody who is well-rounded, someone who's creative, but someone who is self-aware too. Who sort of had opportunities to kind of be within different communities and understand what different people, go through and what different people experience. But there are so many great programs, and that's why, like Kamala Harris, when she became VP, obviously she was a prosecutor.
Yeah.
And she had, there was a lot of programs that she implemented that were sort of progressive prosecution, like programs surrounded by, or I guess programs that were geared toward progressive prosecution And those programs are still being implemented all over the country, in Atlanta and California. And so that's the type of prosecutor that I said, okay, that's the type of prosecutor I want to be. I want to be somebody who's influential, but someone who, at the same time, yes, I am law enforcement. So my job is to make sure that my community, the communities that I live in, and the community, that other individuals live in, stay safe. But at the same time, how do we do that? We don't always just let's start targeting the crime or the issue. Like let's figure out what is the issue, and let's sort of fight that. We don't have to throw away, the baby with the bathwater all the time. But that takes somebody who, like I said, is someone who has an interest in thinking outside the box, thinking creatively about how we can attack a certain issue. Still attack the crime itself, but not the person. Throw the person out all the time too.
That's a good point. Attack the crime itself and not really the person. Wow, that's actually that's neat. I want to get on your pageantry, your pageantry side. But before we leave law, and we may circle back to law, but you started a group?
Yes, Becoming Black Female Barristers.
What is it?
Becoming Black Female Barristers.
Barristers.
So it's BBFB for short. So
that's
actually how that started was I initially wanted to start a group for me to be able to basically talk to all of my mentees at one time, because I have different mentees at different law schools. So I have some at Florida Law School, some at FAMU Law, some at Berry, some at different places. So I was like, I think I'm just going to start a group and put all of my mentees in it, and then that way they can just I can communicate with them all at the same time.
Right.
But for me, that was sort of my thought process, but God said bigger.
It came something bigger than what you thought.
Bigger. So it became, I started it in June of 2020, and within a couple months it had grown to over 1,000 plus something members.
Wow.
I started it, Becoming Black Female Barristers. What it is it's a unique social platform now where aspiring female lawyers, so law students, people who want to go to law school, maybe you're in college, even if you're in high school, aspiring Black female lawyers get an opportunity to interface with licensed lawyers, licensed attorneys. And we kind of talk about, there's mentorship happening. I have a mentorship program through it, but we talk about mentorship. We talk about tips and advice for, we're practicing law, some of the issues that we go through, the imposter syndrome. How do you wear your natural hair for an interview? What is it like sort of being in a predominantly white male dominated field? How do we navigate those circles? That's what we sort of talk about, because what it does is that it creates a safe space for women of color who are interested in law or are already in law. It creates a safe space for us to kind of talk and share ideas. And the reason why that's so important is because Black women only make up 2% of the legal profession, right? So Black women 2%, Black people in general, African American people in general 5%, but we make up 13% of the population. So you see how kind of that's an issue. So I created this space to increase the number of Black female lawyers entering the legal profession, and I'm doing that.
Wow.
Yeah,
you're doing it. You're in the front line with it,
and it's happening.
I was gonna ask you what is like, or what that feeling is like being a Black woman in the legal profession. Because I think for men, being Black and stepping into spaces that aren't common is one thing, but being a Black woman, I know it's a whole different flip side, because women, I don't know what the time span has been since women have entered the workforce the way it is, but so I know that's something, period, just women being in the space. But being a Black woman, because we not being Black, you just naturally anywhere you go outside of a Black community, it's just you just stand out.
And that's so true. You do stand out, and I think there's a good side to it and a bad side. The good side to it is that you always get to sort of represent your community. You know, Black women are, especially right now, we're dominating all different areas. We're dominating. I mean, there's some really top black female lawyers here in Central Florida. We're dominating in medicine, pageantry. You saw how many black women are dominating pageantry with every single main system.
Was it last year? Was it the year before?
Yeah, every single system. So like Miss USA, Teen Miss USA, Miss America, every one of those systems, those titles were held by black women. So I mean, we're, black women right now, when they say black girl magic, like that's a thing. Like that's a true thing. So we're dominating so many different fields. So it's a great thing to actually be able to represent black women. However, at the same token, it's almost like a double-edged sword, because then you are seen as that you're always constantly on. Yeah. Knowing that you're a representative and that you are someone that people look to, when they think about the black women, the black woman, like, they may look to you for that. And you have to sort of be that representative and make sure that you're not out here messing it up. Like, don't mess up, don't give people an opportunity to think, the worst.
Yeah. And I was thinking when you were saying it's a double-edged sword, it's kind of good and bad. The good part, since it's not highly populated, you stand out and you kind of can dictate that narrative, right? Because it's not a lot out there, so like you can kind of like control and manipulate the narrative because, well, you're it, right? You're that standard. So that is kind of a cool thing. I asked a couple of guys on the show. I haven't asked a woman yet, but I've asked some of the guys. So being black and doing this platform, right? For me, not to say anyone did this to me, but for me, I just feel it. Like, I feel like being black and doing it, I kind of like, I gotta hit these points, man. I'm like hard, like I critique myself hard. When I post something, I'm like, dang it could look better. Like I'm a hard critic on myself because I want to put that best foot forward, because I'm a black man. I'm out here doing it, and I want to be successful at it. I want to make a ton of money doing this. Right. So like, it's just being black and then being a man, it sits on me. I'm like, okay, I want to do good. I want to be good. And then like, you kind of got to jump through a little bit more hoops. You kind of got to be like extra crisp with it because you are black. Yeah. So that's what I feel. No one told me that. No one put it on me, but that's just kind of how I feel putting myself out here. So like, do you feel anything like that? Like, I know we just talked about being a black woman and that, but like, what is that? Like, you are black, you are a woman, you going into these spaces, like,
it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure. And like when you said about like, this thing, like this has to be perfect. Like, I feel that all the time. Like I literally I like to say I'm like I'm a recovering perfectionist. Like because I am like, it's crazy because like, what I found was that I would be so concerned with like, how does this look? Like, how is this going to appear? Like, maybe I need to do this before I do this. And then I wind up not doing anything. I wind up not moving. Like, I can honestly say for like the first year of my business, of my pageant coaching business, I was so focused on optics and so focused on like, I knew that I had value. Right. I knew that I could add value. I knew I had the skill set, but I was like, oh man, I need to get some more pictures. Oh man, I need to get a photo shoot. Oh man, and it's crazy because it stopped me from providing value and a certain knowledge and skill set that I knew that I had, that I knew that girls needed. It stopped me from providing that. So yeah, I will say absolutely, it is pressure. Yeah. Being a black woman and being a black woman that's ambitious and a black woman that is navigating, different spaces and infiltrating different circles, it's a lot of pressure there. It is. Wow. But I have to sort of remind myself that it's no mistake. I'm supposed to be here. Imposter syndrome kind of comes up a lot where sort of you feel like that, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to be in this space. Like maybe it's a mistake. Maybe I should be. And so I have to constantly remind myself that I'm here because I'm supposed to be here. And while you're here, Ashley, take up space. Take up space. Do what you need to do. And don't shy back. don't shy back from that.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the pageantry and even what started you doing that.
So I started, my very first pageant was in high school. Like I said, Jacksonville is, known for pageants. So I went to Raines High School, William Marion Raines High School, predominantly black school in Jacksonville, Florida. And I went out for Miss Raines High School. And a lot of people thought that like our pageants were, normal people. If you say, oh, okay, well, yeah, like I was my high school, pageant queen. People think, oh, like homecoming queen. And I'm like, no. Like we actually had full pageants. Full pageants. We had like, there was like etiquette training, there was interviews, there was gown, there was like fashion wear, it was talent. Wow. So it was a full production, and that took months to prepare for. I had a coach. So that's why I'm so thankful, and why I see the benefits of pageant coaches. I had a coach, and I won that pageant. That was my very first pageant that I ever won.
Wow!
And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience because I got to, like I said, Jacksonville's huge for pageants, but not only did I represent my high school, I represented that entire community of north side of Jacksonville where my school was located. And I was on the news, I would speak about different issues, kind of talk about different things. So it was big. And then I went from there, and then I went into Miss Senior High, which was pretty much all the pageant queens within Jacksonville all kind of came together for one pageant. And Miss Senior High was a prerequisite, I think it was a prerequisite for, was sort of like a feeder pageant that fed into like Miss Teen USA or something like that. But started there at Miss Senior High. Miss Senior High had never had, I think the last black woman that had placed in Miss Senior High, it had been years. I'm talking about 10 plus years.
A long time.
Yeah, a long time.
And you came in and broke
in and placed. Didn't win, but placed and was in the court, which was great. And so from there, then I went on to college, and then I started, I was in my, books and stuff then, but I still I still was active and sort of, performing. I wasn't doing any pageants. I started a pageant, something happened where the pageant wasn't able to go forward, but I was still kind of just sort of being active. I was dancing, I was part of a dance group, I started modeling, I was the female runway trainer for a group, Faces Modeling Troupe. So I kept going, not even knowing that I'm using these different, I'm building a skill set. All of these things are important parts of pageantry. Obviously, being in a pageant, but I'm dancing, so that's like your talent portion or your performance portion. I'm modeling, that's your on-stage presentation. I'm very active in organizations. I'm doing a lot of speaking. I'm interviewing. All of those things are aspects of pageantry that are different aspects of pageantry that you actually train and coach girls for. Kept doing that. Continued to build a skill set. Went to law school, and then once I left law school, graduated obviously, and then became a trial attorney, prosecutor. So one thing that I found fascinating is now my ability to use my skill set that I gained over a 16 plus year period. Take that, couple that with the skill set I have as an attorney, a trial attorney, because I always say that when you're in a pageant, whether you're trying to get a group of judges to side for you or vote for you, or whether you're in front of a jury, me trying a case, you trying to get a group of jurors to side for you, whichever one you're doing, you're trying to get a group of people to connect the dots in your favor. So I just took both, put them together, and I think it's made me a very well-rounded, unique coach. Because I take obviously the public speaking. I don't mind speaking at all. I love speaking in front of crowds, but I take that skill set. I take, as a lawyer, we're very meticulous, and we're very, we're very cautious about, what things look like, how we write, very analytical. Like I take all of that and use that in my coaching with my girls when they're preparing paperwork or when they're doing interview. All of that stuff. The pageants are so, there's so many different aspects of a pageant, and it takes a well-rounded coach or someone who's trained in different facets of that to really prepare a girl to be successful.
I thought of this question and we kept talking, I forgot about it, and the good Lord brought it back to me. Hallelujah.
See?
Are you argumentative in your relationships?
I wouldn't say
You looked away.
that.
You looked away.
I wouldn't say argument. Okay, look, no, I used to be a lot more.
Right?
I used to be a lot more. Now I have learned to, and this has been extremely beneficial in relationships. Now that I've learned and become a little bit more wiser, I learned to take off the hat.
Yes.
I learned to take off the hat. So I used to have a problem with putting people on the stand, you know, and not knowing when to take them out. Yeah, it's just habit, because it's like I do it every day. Yeah. But now, you know, I'm a lot more comfortable with, you know, when I get home in the day, like I take that off. I don't take, you know, I leave that hat, you know, at the workplace. And when I get home, I'm relaxing, I'm chilling, or, you know, I can't bring that into my relationships. I think that's one of the toughest things for people to do, is to take their work persona off when they get home. Right. It's hard to do because you're in it so much, and then it just becomes habit. Right. So it's not even to say that, oh, well, you shouldn't do that. It's just like, I mean, it's like I just asked you, like it's a thing that you just have to learn. You have to learn how to leave work at work. At work. And it gets even more difficult if your work is at home, because you're in your work environment all day because it's home. So you're in that mode. Yeah, I just wanted to ask that question. Well, what do you say when people say that, oh, we should not have beauty pageants, that you shouldn't make a competition out of women's beauty? I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't want to say that, because I got feelings about it. I'm going to let mine be known. No. Like, I mean, you hear that all the time. Yeah. I always say that a lot of people who sort of think that way, they really don't understand the benefits of pageantry. You know, they kind of see these shows like Toddlers and Tiaras, and you see these shows where you see these moms living vicariously through their children. Right. But they don't really see what pageants do for the girls. Like, the girls become, like, it's my job as a coach to get these girls to understand who they are at their core. Right. It's my job to pull that out of them. Right. And a lot of times the pageants are what do it, because a lot of times these girls, they may not have, they may have issues with self-esteem, or they may have issues with body image or confidence, or speaking abilities, or but pageants, sort of what pageants do is the girls are sort of spotlighted, but it puts them in a position to have to dig deep to, you know, to figure out what's inside, like what is it that's inside of here, and then how can you find the unique way to sort of showcase that. Right. The name of my pageant coaching company is called Worthy of the Crown, and it's sort of a play on words, because worthy of the, people think, oh, like the pageant crown, and I always say that, you know, it's not just, yes, you're worthy of the crown, but not just the one that's on your head, the one that's in your soul. It's both, you know, like, you know, so I think the girls who who are successful in pageantry, they understand that. Yeah. They get that it's not the pretty dresses, it's not the pretty pageant dresses that win pageants, or it's not the pretty interview outfit that wins a pageant. Right. It's the girl who has stepped into this she stepped into, you know, who she is, like she knows who she is and whose she is, who she belongs to, and she's self-aware, she's confident, she stepped into her authentic self. Those are the girls that are successful in pageantry, and it's my job as a coach to pull that out of them. So I would say there's so many different benefits to pageantry, and pageantry just happens to be one of those vehicles to help girls sort of reach their fullest potential. Yeah, I don't think, because I know different people have a view on women's beauty and rating women's beauty, and now you've probably heard Kevin Samuels and his online issues with rating women's beauty. Now, I think pageants are fine. I like them. I support that whole thing. Not in the sense of like, because I do believe that competition is just lost. I believe that competition is not a thing, or it's not, like, kids aren't being taught how to compete in a healthy responsibly way. Because life is nothing but a huge competition.
And so when you get out here in the real world, you could tell your kids everyone's a winner and ain't no you could tell them that all day, because life is going to show you a different story.
Right. That is not the case.
And it's full of competition. I mean, there's competition all day on social media. It's competition on television. These companies are competing for employees. Employees are competing to be you're competing when you go to a job interview.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if that company don't snatch up a good employee, that next company's going to do it. Like, so it's so much competition everywhere you look.
Right.
So I believe competition is healthy to the individual. You learn more, you grow more through competition, but it's just how to compete responsibly. And because you don't have to cheat to be competitive, and you don't have to put people down in competition. Competition to me is just you display your best foot and be confident as you display your best foot.
Exactly. And
who's going to see you is going to see you. And on the other side of that too, with pageants, looks matter. I don't care what anyone has to say. Be petty all you want. Sit there and say looks don't matter.
Visual creatures.
Hey, looks freaking matter. Why do you think people got filters? Why do you think all these apps come with filters nowadays? Like, you go to post a picture. Why you got? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Why do you think when you buy a cell phone, just think about cell phone commercials. They zoom in on the body. It's so sleek and looks freaking matter.
Yep.
And it's just a small computer in your pocket, but it looks good, so we buy it. What do you feel when it comes to looks? So how do you feel about that, or how do you even coach that?
Well, I try to get my girls to understand that your look is your brand. So every time you step outside of your house, whether you go into the grocery store, you go into the mall, or wherever you're going, you're representing a brand. You're representing something bigger than you.
Yeah.
You know, people are constantly it's just human nature. We're constantly making judgments. We're constantly, you only got 3 seconds before, somebody has before they make a judgment about you. So, you're constantly representing, your brand. You're constantly building that brand. So it's important for you to be mindful of how you're communicating to people, based on how you look or how you dress, how you dress, how you look, how you carry yourself. All of those things are important. You're constantly communicating things to people. So be mindful of what you're communicating. That can be in the way you wear your hair, in the way that you talk, in the way that the type of shoes that you wear. I'm not saying it got to be, name brand this. I'm not a name brand girl. I have some staples and things that I like, but that's not my thing. For me though, I always just like to look my best, because you never know who you're representing, what you're representing. You never know who you're going to see. Just don't. It's important.
Yeah. Do you? I asked you off camera though, but do you want to get back into it from coaching? Like, do you feel like, man, I want to get back on that stage?
I think about that often. I think about it, and I'm like, because at first I was like, well, I'm 30. I'm turning 31 this year. I don't mind telling my age. I'm turning 31 this year. So I was like, dang, I wonder if I think I can get back on the stage and get back out there. Yeah, but I think, so the only concern that I have, because it's certainly not the competition. I love competition. I love preparing for pageants. I get a rush, like an adrenaline rush, preparing my girls for pageantry. I think my only concern is whether or not I would have the time, because then at that point, that takes away time for me sort of coaching my girls, and takes away time for me, with my community work. But I certainly have thought about it. I'm strongly considering it.
Getting back in there?
Yeah, I'm strongly considering. I'm like, if I could just, maybe just one title, I just go, I compete, I get the title. I'm like, all right, cool. I got to say that marked the end of my pageantry career. Yeah. And now I can just sort of coach and consult. But yeah, I strongly consider it.
That's dope. It's like music for me. Like, music is where I started, like being on the stage and stuff like that. And the first time I did a performance, I was 18 years old. Never performed a day in my life.
Really?
Yeah, I just wrote raps and stuff like that. My brother was doing an event at this church, and he was like, hey, Daniel, I want you to perform at the event. And I was like, all right, cool. And I wrote 2 songs, and I performed them. Well, I didn't perform all of them. I got kicked off stage.
Oh, Lord. Why?
Because the dude said, "Oh, we don't do this in the church," and yada yada yada.
So were you doing like Christian rap?
Yeah, it was rap, but like everybody was turned up. Like the artist performing was turned up, but see, I turned it up. Like people were coming on stage and dancing around the church, but it was all.
But see, back then though, you gotta think.
Crazy.
Back then though, like pastors weren't really. I mean, pastors, yeah, but even just Christians weren't really like. They hadn't like, you know, gotten their feet wet with that yet.
Yeah.
They weren't comfortable with it. Now, I remember like back when I was a teenager, who was listening to Trip Lee and all these like, you know, different like Christian rappers, and we loved it. But, you know, that was just sort of our generation. But older generations, they weren't into that yet.
They didn't even like Kurt Franklin when he first came out.
Right.
I want to go into some of the stuff that you're doing with the community. Just talk a little bit about that. Some of the stuff that you're into in the community. So
kind of what I talked about was with my purpose being girls and young women, empowering and inspiring them.
Oh, with that.
Yeah, so what I've done is, and the reason why I brought that up is because I kind of try to align the things, the community work that I do with that. Now there is some stuff obviously I do outside of that, but a lot of the stuff that's very special to me has a lot to do with girls and young women. So I am the chair of the Young Professionals Board for PACE Center for Girls. Wow. And PACE is, are you familiar with PACE?
Nope.
So PACE is, PACE Center for Girls, it's sort of a, they're a partner with Orange County Public Schools, but PACE is all over. They're all over the state. There's actually 22 locations, 21 of those locations in Florida, one is in Georgia. But it's pretty much like it's a school, you know, for girls where they're able to get sort of education, counseling, advocacy, different resources. These are girls who sort of kind of deal with, they have different barriers to success. So those things can be, I mean, they may deal with domestic violence issues, food insecurity, issues with family members, poverty, homelessness, all of these different things. And so what PACE does is that it serves as that safe space for the girls. They get to come there. It's a school. It's school for them. It's sort of like an alternative school for them. They kind of go there, they get the resources that they need, and hopefully the goal is to sort of push them back into, you know, public school system, or push them back into the schools that they were in. But while they're at PACE, they get the care that they need and sort of that special attention. And so for me, that was always so important for me, because I had friends of mine that I knew, you know, people that I grew up with that were, you know, in PACE or had some type of connection with PACE, and I saw the benefit that it had on them, you know, their self-esteem and their, you know, sort of who they became like as women. That was something that was important to me. So I knew that when I got here, I was like, well, you know, PACE is such a great organization. They're doing so much great work. So I decided to become a member and became the chair. The crazy thing about that is that there's no other PACE Young Professionals boards in the entire country. This is the only one, and I'm the chair. There's no other one. So that's the sort of the goal is, me as chair, is to sort of allow PACE to become a household name, you know, all over the country, where we're building different young professionals boards and young professional boards. And what we do is we sort of, as a young professional board, people that are on my board are sort of active in all different areas of society. So we got law, we got some people in entertainment, some people that you know, are human resources, all different, but these are all young professionals. And what we do is we use our platforms, we use our networks, we leverage our networks to actually get resources and money for PACE. And kind of you know, let people sort of know that PACE does exist, that is a resource that exists, and this is what we're doing in the community, this is why we're so important, and this is why you should partner with this organization. So with PACE, you know, we've done several events. We've done a trivia night where we raised, you know, money for the girls for the trivia night, a virtual trivia night. We've done a winter coat drive where a lot of times these girls, they won't come to school because they don't have coats. And so in the winter, it's extremely cold. They don't have coats. So they're not going to come to school because they're cold. So we did a winter coat drive to sort of raise money to get them coats. So that's no longer a barrier to success. So PACE is an organization that is very near and dear to me. I do a lot of work with them, and I spend a lot of time on really trying to get people to see why PACE is so important. Outside of PACE, I do work with the Central Florida Association for Women Lawyers. So obviously, like I said, Black women, we make up only 2% of the legal profession. women lawyers in general, we are, a much larger subset of the legal population. But nevertheless, this is still an organization that I'm able to, work through and kind of get things done, kind of work through and with the understanding that you're working with so many different women, like bosses. These women that are in like the Women Lawyers Association, these are boss women. They're doing it. They're making moves. These are movers and shakers. And so I'm thankful to sort of be within that group to learn and to grow, especially as a young lawyer, I would say, So those are a couple. Very active in the Paul C. Perkins Bar Association. That's the Black Bar Association. So it's the association that is sort of supports the advancement of African American lawyers in the Central Florida community. That's one. And those are kind of my mostly three that I kind of put a lot of my, there's others, but those are the three that I put give my love and attention to. And also my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Sorority.
So those, and obviously with that, get an opportunity to work with girls and young women. So that's a part of our purpose. So those are some of the organizations that I devote my time, my talent, and my treasure to. Yeah,
that's dope. You mentioned the word insecurities a couple times in this conversation. Did you struggle with insecurities?
I think that everybody sort of has something that they struggle with or something that they deal with. I think for me, kind of what I talked about is my insecurity, especially when I first started my business, being completely candid, was I had this feeling like, am I supposed to be here? All I've known, growing up, I've gone to school, I went to college, I went to law school, I became a lawyer, but nobody ever taught me how to be an entrepreneur. Nobody ever taught me how to run a business and like sort of what that looks like and how to do that successfully. And so that was sort of an insecurity for me, like getting started, because I wasn't quite sure how to navigate that space. I didn't feel like it was for me. But sort of what got me to change that was understanding, like I said, actually take up space. You deserve to be here. You deserve to be right where you are. God has He has specifically ordained you to be in this place, to take up space and to do what you need to do for such a time as this. That keeps like coming to mind, like that scripture. But yeah, you've been called to do what you're supposed to do. So yeah, that's something that I have struggled with and have to constantly, have to remind myself that actually you're supposed to be here and you got this. And it shows because I have success in my business and am doing well with it. But you always got that bug in your ear that you got to be like, get out of here.
I think one of the things that I struggle with, like and I didn't really start moving in spite of it until like recently, man. It's been like recent within my life. I'm 35.
Okay.
So like a lot of it was confidence. But it was weird for me because I would project a lot of confidence because I've always been a confident person with my looks, but like doing things, it was just like, okay, I'm gonna do what everyone around me is doing because what I'm doing and what I truly want, that doesn't really get a lot of traction. So like because I grew up in the hood. I grew up in a predominantly black area, but I didn't identify or get into a lot of the things that they did. Like I would watch anime. I was big on cartoons. I was a gamer. I did trading cards, so I was big into those type of like the geek type stuff. But like, and that's what I liked. But like, you look around you, everyone, I'm in the hood, so it's like that's like not in the hood. Ain't nobody on that. Nobody. And if they on it, they ain't talking about it. It wasn't popular then. Now, anime in the black community is huge.
Look, I feel left out because I don't know anything about it.
Like I'm huge. I would say anime popped the way it did because of Black America.
Really?
I would say that wholeheartedly in America because anime it's been out for a long time. It's been there. And kids were on anime, white kids were on anime. but black kids wasn't on anime. So I would bring anime around my people, and it was like a small sect of us in my high school. But then I wrestled, so I was cool with the athletes.
Okay.
And then I boxed, so I was cool with the Spanish guys and the Haitians because they boxed. So I was cool.
You were well-rounded.
I was
everywhere.
Everywhere. But and I always knew what I wanted to do. Like I would listen to like a lot of underground music. I listened to a lot of the conscious hip hop, but so I grew up like that, and that's what I gravitated to. I wasn't trying to like it, but I like Will Smith. And so like I always knew I liked that stuff, and I would do it, but it's not what everyone else was doing, so I would do that. And like I was just like, man, if I'm gonna do anything in public eye, if I'm gonna do music, if I'm gonna do anything, I'm gonna show them me and let them either reject me or they accept me, and you never know. And once I started doing that and just like not caring, man, just sort of like, listen, this is who I am, world. That's when things started changing. And then you get around people that are like-minded. Like once they realize who you are and they really know who you are, then you get people that are gonna subscribe to you for who you are. And if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But that was something I struggled with for a long time.
And when you do that, though, you give people license to be themselves. Because people start, like, when people see someone operating like an authenticity, they're like, all right, well, I guess I could start, because after a while you get tired of being fake.
You get tired,
So it's like, when you see somebody operating in that, like they're operating in like they're just authentic, like, they are who they are. What you see is what you get.
Right.
It gives people the freedom to do that, to operate in that same space.
Yeah. I guess in closing, I want to talk about failure a little bit. I like talking about failure to people.
Okay.
Because I've grown to have this relationship with failure. Because it's needed. I believe failure is needed. I don't run from it like I used to. And I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to fail at all, whether it's publicly or hidden. I'm not afraid to fail anymore because I've gotten to a space where failure doesn't define me.
Okay. Like
my failures or my flaws, they don't define who I am. Like you still know who you are in spite of failures.
Right.
But failure is on the road. Literally, it's a stop in the road to success. Like
it's a part of it.
It's exactly.
I didn't always feel like sort of have that philosophy that sort of failure is on the road to success. Like it's sort of a necessary stop on the way to success, because when you experience failure, by experiencing it, when you do experience success, it's that much greater, right? Because you are familiar with failure and you know what that felt like. So when you get to the place where you actually wanted to get to, it's like, oh, okay, like I actually put in the work because I struggled, I had issues, and now I'm here. But I wasn't always in it. Like I was scared to fail.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a part of me that still is. Like that's why I say, like when I have like this, sometimes like when I got started with my business, that was sort of one of the things for me, that I was afraid to fail. And I think that's something now, like as I'm still in my early 30s, but I used to have this feeling like when I was younger that, oh man, like I got to do everything right. Remember I told you I was a recovering perfectionist.
Right.
But I was like, I got to do everything right. And in my mind, it was like, well, you know what? If you dot every I and you cross every T, like you don't have to worry about failing because you're doing everything the way that it's supposed to get done. But that's such an unrealistic way of thinking, because nothing sort of just comes to you without you having to kind of undergo certain issues or hardships or frustrations. I mean, it's going to happen, and you have to know sort of how to deal with that. You have to know sort of where kind of how to navigate that. So yeah, for me, I agree with you 100% that failure, it is a necessary step towards success, and it makes success that much sweeter when you've experienced it.
Failure is a test to sacrifice, success period, or even on anything that you want to do. And someone told me this, and it changed the way I view success. Because I've always viewed success as being at a social, success was measured in finances, your money, and your social standing. So that's the way that I used to view success. And there's still a component to that when it comes to success for me too as well. But someone told me this. They said, if you are able to take what's in your head and present it before people, that's success. Because a lot of people will have ideas or dreams or visions that they want to accomplish, but they don't even have the ability to put that in front of people. For people to either critique it or fund it or support it or not. So they don't even have that. So if you have the ability to take what's in your head and put it before people, you're already successful.
You're already a step ahead.
You're a huge step ahead.
Because most people don't move.
Yeah.
Most people won't. Most people don't move on dreams or goals or different aspirations out of fear.
Yep.
So if you're in this place where you're able to, like you said, take this and put it here, whether that's on paper, whether that's in front of a camera, wherever it is, like you already ahead of the game.
You're a huge step ahead of the game, because now at that point you're in the competition. When it's in your head, you're not even on the field. You haven't even showed up to practice.
Nope.
You haven't even showed up to practice because no one knows. And then you get to this space where, well, why isn't anyone noticing me? Well, they don't even know that you're a person to be noticed.
You're
and
not
it's not
someone
a knock
worth
against
knowing.
Yeah.
I always say, like, it's important for you. For me, I always say it's important for me to become someone worth knowing. Not just by, obviously not just what I'm doing, but I have a great friend of mine who always says, always be, or it should be your goal to become top of mind. Like you should be, like when someone is, when someone's discussing you, maybe they may be discussing you in rooms that you haven't even stepped in yet. But they should be able to say, if somebody's talking about pageantry, or they talking about girls and young women, women's empowerment, or they're talking about, coaching, or they're talking about law, like I want to be the person that's top of mind. Oh, you should meet Ashley. Like let me introduce you to Ashley. So that's sort of like the goal, to sort of always be top of mind. And if you're always shying back and you're not sort of putting yourself out there, you don't become somebody worth knowing. Nobody sort of thinks about you. So always be somebody that's worth knowing, worth talking about.
Yeah, and that's not, and people don't owe you to ask you what your dreams are. They don't have to. My thing was this, and I struggled with this for a while. I had to quickly get out of that, especially with this platform. I struggled with putting myself, like always talking about myself. Like people y'all should talk about me or inquire. And it was just like, no, they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not prideful. It's not, because I struggle with pride. Like, so it's not prideful. It's not arrogant for you to promote you. It's marketing.
Yeah.
Like if you need to OD on talking about yourself and to people about what you do. And I started doing that. I'll be out and I'll see somebody with a nice car. Someone got their car wrapped in the business, something like that. That's how I met a couple of people for my show. I'm like, hey, what do you do? Oh, I have a talk show. Here's my card. What do you do? Let's talk. Let's do. I mean, and I talk. If I see somebody, I'm like, dang, I tell my wife too. We be out. I'm like, dang, I should approach that person. And she's like, well, you're not doing it. And I'm like, dang, I should approach him. She said, well, stop saying. She said, you always say that. Stop saying it.
Go do it.
Just start approaching. Yeah, because I'd be like, I might not have a good fit on, or I'm like, dang, should I approach that person? No. And man, and so I there's a few times I let that slide. But my goal truly, like even what I said earlier, I do want to make a ton of money doing what I do, but I do want to change the way talk shows are done. I want to bring back classic conversation. I want to do away with scripts, and I really want to do that. So that's been my goal. But I appreciate you for sitting down here talking to me. This was dope.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime. This was fun. And like you said, I mean, conversation, like the art of conversation, just talking, like people don't do that anymore. No. People are like tweeting, we on social media, people texting. I mean, people don't pick up the phone and talk to people anymore. So this was good to sit here and talk. Yeah. That felt good. I'm gonna have to bring you back because I do want to get onto some law stuff. Okay. Because I do want to talk about some more law things. But I guess I'll let the people know how they can get in touch with you, where they can follow your socials and all that. Okay. So you all can follow me on Instagram. My personal Instagram is @Wright_ESQ. So AWRIGHT. _ESQ. That's my personal Instagram. My business, my pageant coaching Instagram page is Worthy of the Crown Coaching. And I'm also on Facebook and Facebook as well. My personal Facebook, which is my name, and then my pageant coaching Facebook page is the same thing, Worthy of the Crown Pageant Coaching. So find me on there. I'm also have a website, a pageant coaching website, WOTCPC.com. So that's first letters of Worthy of the Crown pageantcoaching.com, where I'm coaching girls for local, state, and national systems. One-on-one coaching, virtual, and in-person coaching. We're having a lot of fun, so check us out.
Yeah. And all that's going to be in the description of the video, so you guys can check it out there. Thank y'all again for watching. Sub to the channel, but you don't watch my stuff and not subscribe. Y'all not them type of people. You don't just do that. So thank you for subscribing. Give this video a thumbs up. Connect with the guests, with Ashley. I want to say what's up to our partners, taxmoney123.com. For all your accounting and tax needs, you're trying to file them taxes, you want to do amendments, hit them up. And then my favorite, most beautiful partner, my wife, Oksana, the legacy coach. So reach out to our partners, y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching. We'll see y'all next time. Deuces.
Bye.
Fist bump.
Bam.